Tracy Harwood. So I've done a little bit of digging around and I've discovered.
Ricky Grove. Fog comes in on little cat feet.
Phil Rice. This is the best film that I've seen all year and maybe ever.
Damien Valentine. Use the machinima, Luke. Hello and welcome to another installment of And Now for Something Completely Machinima. I'm Damien Valentine and I'm going to be joined by Tracy Harwood.
Ooh.
Phil Rice.
Hey there.
And Ricky.
Hello.
I've got to try and lead the show now. Right. So I've got a little bit of news and a film. Like Phil, I chose a film that has Keanu Reeves in it. A little bit different context. But first, the news, which is kind of related. There's two pieces. One is about The Witcher 3, which is a game by CD Projekt Red. They're going to release mod tools. And this is an old game. It's been released about 8 years ago, but they're releasing the full mod tool set for people to use. And the reason I wanted to bring that up was it'd be interesting to see how modders modify that game, but also what machinima potential it's going to have by unlocking these tools. How are people going to modify it to give camera tools and control the characters and anything else that might be useful for potential filmmakers. And obviously, it is an 8-year-old game, so it's not going to look quite as good as something like Elden Ring, but that doesn't matter. I mean, if it's a game you really love and you've got some ideas for telling stories in that world or something similar to it, go for it, because it'll be interesting to see. And moving on to the next piece. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, Damien, it's really super interesting to see this this company just fully embracing and endorsing machinima creation through this. Because I don't know about you guys, I haven't really seen a lot of machinima created in this particular game. Have you? Have we just not seen it, or does it not exist? I don't know. But I think
there's been some. I mean, I don't think a lot, but there's been a handful, at least.
A handful in 9 years.
Yeah, you're right. That's a perspective. You're right.
I think that's really interesting, though, because basically what it means is they fully appreciate the role that machinima has to play, both in keeping the interest in the game going, but possibly also how the community can also be used to generate new stories that then they can exploit. And I think that's a really interesting strategy from this organization. So,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping they'll do, because it's the same company that made Cyberpunk 2077.
Exactly.
So I'm hoping they'll do the same for that game, which is obviously much more recent. And we've already seen some machinima films made with that. And it's one of the films that I'm going to be talking about in a few minutes. It was also made with the game. So if they release the full mod tools and maybe give people cinematic options, that'd be great, because I'd like to see more films made with this game.
Well, in fact, aren't they going to be releasing an Ultimate Edition and an update? Oh, that was your second.
That is the second piece of news.
Oh, apologies.
You led into quite nicely.
Sorry.
They earlier this year they released a DLC expansion pack, and they alongside it was a 2.0 patch that reworks a lot of the way the game works. So now they're releasing an Ultimate Edition, which combines the original game with the expansion, so you can buy both together. But they also released another patch, which the 2.0 was supposed to be the end of it, but we got a little bit more, and it's going to add a full subway system, which is in the trailer, but was never actually in the game. But so now you can actually go on the subway and travel around the city, and there's some other features in there, which I was only reading about this earlier this afternoon, so I haven't had a chance to fully research it yet. But I thought it was worth mentioning, because this is a game that we've been keeping an eye on, and if any of our listeners are thinking about making it something with it, it may be useful as well, because you've got some more options to use. I believe by the time you actually listen to the show, the that update will be out. It was announced as the 5th of December, which is a few days away from recording, but by the time you listen to this, it'll be out. So hopefully there's some interesting stuff there.
What I read also, and I don't know to what extent this is actually the case, although the fans seem to be on the inside track of it. What they're saying that is coming with the new updates and whatnot is a new third-person view feature, and a new game plus feature, meaning that folks won't lose the progress when they're starting these kind of new. So I'm assuming, presumably, what that will allow is people to record new endings to stories and whatnot, and also make more interesting machinima, because they'll have more ways in which to kind of capture and create the content. So my guess is that there's going to be a lot more game functionality for storytelling as well, which I think is really quite an interesting opportunity for them, and also probably reflects what we were just talking about with Witcher 3 as well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there for modders and storytellers to use this game world and to tell their own stories, which is something we're going to be talking about in a minute with this film I've chosen. But yeah, opening up to the audience, to the fans, I think that's a great idea, because it's a huge game to explore. You've got the city in the middle and the desert around the edge of it, and you've got this new section in the expansion as well. And the city is different in different parts of the game. So you've got the very rich part with all the latest high-tech technology, and then you've got the slums where everything's falling apart, and the places you wouldn't really want to go. And then there's Pacifica region, which is completely lawless. The first time you go there, you see a explosion in one of the buildings, and no one cares. Like, this big skyscraper, there's an explosion, no one even thinks anything of it. It's just everyday life. So somewhere you wouldn't want to go. So there's a huge different place, and of course you can go out in the desert and explore. So you've even got that. You might not want to do anything in the city, but you might have a story that you want to tell out in the sort of desert world, maybe something like Mad Max or something like that. And that is another option for you, because you've got that environment, and it's huge. You can find different places to film. So yeah, I'm excited for this Cyberpunk update, and looking forward to seeing what people do with it. I'm looking forward to playing it myself as well. So I'll move on to the film, which is of course made with Cyberpunk 2077, and we've seen for a long time people retelling the story of a video game. Usually they take the cutscenes of a game and then they'll put in some gameplay elements to fill in the gaps, but it's usually just a straight rehash of the cutscenes. So when I saw this, I thought this is probably going to be the same, except there are no cutscenes in Cyberpunk 2077. Everything is first-person perspective, so occasionally you'll lose control of the character while something's happening, but you're still seeing it from your character's perspective. So what this person has done is they've created a movie out of the game story, but they've made it out of their own cutscenes that they've used the Otis video tools, and then they've had to use some other mods to fill in the gaps as well, where obviously you never see your character because you're seeing through your eyes. You don't see what they're doing, so they had to mod the game to be able to show the character, because it's not done from the first person perspective in this film. It's just that. But what we're talking about now is just the trailer, because I feel like that shows enough of it gives you a full sense of the taste of what they've done. I haven't actually had time to sit down and watch the 90-minute movie myself. I kind of want to, but I just
Yeah, me
haven't
too.
been able to. Because I really enjoyed the story, and I think doing it as a movie, it's going to work and be very interesting. And obviously, this game has choices that affect the story. So there's only one path through the game that this is the path they've chosen to tell their story. But everyone else playing it is going to have very different experiences. So I kind of want to watch the whole thing, because it's really intriguing how they've modified the game to do it in a way that's not just stitching all the cutscenes together.
Yeah.
So I think that's what drew my attention to it. So what did you guys think?
You want me to
Yeah,
go
I'm
next?
particularly interested in it because it's maybe because it's not a game that I've ever played or owned. So it would be, it's like watching a new movie, you know, and from a, you know, made in a game made by a company who knows how to do attention to detail in their story worlds. You know, we've seen it, I mean, of course, in multiple iterations of GTA, in Red Dead Redemption, and here in Cyberpunk as well. I'm very, very excited to actually, when you submitted the trailer for us to look at, Damien, I didn't catch, I didn't understand that the movie was already released. So I was just thinking, oh, I'll look forward to that when it comes out. And it was actually only during the course of you talking about it right now that I realized, oh, it's out. So I've bookmarked it, and I'll probably watch it tonight. I mean, it's because it is while it's not a game that I have time to invest in what would be many, many hours, right? You know, exploring it and getting to know it and all that. And I just don't have time for that right now, but I could watch a 90-minute movie about it for sure. So I'm very looking forward to it. And I mean, the trailer is, I mean, it's just beautiful. It's what you'd expect from everything that I've seen from that game. It's got that look. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. It's actually all I have to say about it.
Well, I got a few more things, and you may or may not agree, as ever. But I think it's really interesting timing for this, because of what we were talking about before we started talking about the film. The fact that CD Projekt Red, the developer, is releasing this Ultimate Edition and these updates, and I think what this film release and the trailer are, then they are a perfect departure point for anyone really wanting to try the new features that are being released, because this is clearly a cinematic run through of the kind of narrative arc centering around some of the kind of the main characters in the game. And I guess therefore, if you don't know the game, watching this as a movie is a really good way to find out what it's all about. And that means you can access the next level of content without having to faff around and you know, get your character and progress through the stages as you would normally have to. And in many ways, I think what that makes this is the ultimate, you know, advert for this game. And I mean ultimate because it's 80-90 minutes long in its full version. I mean, that's just an astonishing kind of endeavor in many ways. And I gotta say, apart from the you know, the incredible visuals and mechanics that we've commented on kind of time and again since it was first released, and many folks have really started making films with it, I don't think I ever actually fully appreciated that there is a sort of a narrative story arc as such within this game, in the way that it's kind of being articulated here, or indeed just how complex the game is in the way that these narrative arcs interweave between the characters. You know, which I think is, well, I mean, it's probably not very surprising. I'm not a game player, and I guess, you know, I might have expected that to be the case, because, you know, when you know, I can remember when we had that conversation about Minecraft, I think I was a little surprised to realize that actually that was all about digging holes, and I hadn't kind of cottoned on to the fact, and that's because what I'm watching is a machinima of it, not actually playing it to figure out how to make this sort of content. So I kind of come at this from a slightly different perspective than most folks would that appreciate this as a game and as a game world. And my guess is most folks that will watch this appreciate it as a game rather than as a film. So, like you say, Phil, this movie came out a couple of weeks ago. Actually, I did get it in my feed somehow. I don't really know how, but I did start to watch it as the full version of it. I got about 10-15 minutes into it, and I couldn't really, it lost me. For whatever reason, I just never finished it, and I keep thinking I'll go back to it, because it kind of intrigued me that this had been made, but I never have. And I'm fairly certain the reason for that was that I needed to give it much more attention than than the time I've actually had available to do it. But probably also that it's just taking too long to make a point. And very possibly when I looked at the trailer, I was thinking, actually, the trailer is doing something a little different. It's not that it's too complex and too detailed, and it's not kind of getting to the point quickly enough. It's just that there is so much going on. There isn't really enough detail that helps me fully understand what it is I'm going to see in the film, or why I should really watch it all the way through. And I kind of concluded that actually probably my expectations were just a little bit different. But that's probably just my view of it, really, because it's very clear that this cinematic full movie of it is clearly much requested of the developer, particularly among the game players. I suppose really it's because they want to see a new story with the way that with the characters that they basically love. And of course, one of those characters is actually Keanu Reeves as well. But they've already invested in it, I think, as viewers in some respect, because of the detail in it. Overall, I thought it was really beautifully made. It really does convey what the game's all about. I think I struggled a little bit with the darknesses and the different nuances between the characters, and do they call them shards in this? I assume what they're referring to are what I would perhaps call branching narratives, so that you can kind of run through the game in multiple different ways, or go off and do little bits and pieces. But I found that just a little there's clearly a law that I don't really fully understand, and as a consequence I find it a little bit confusing, I suppose. But I have to say, overall, what I think this guy Jack Hunt has achieved is actually really outstanding. And as someone sort of states, what he's got here is that it's not only a love letter to the game for the story and the universe, but to everyone who's worked on it and to the community. And I think it's the community that this is really for. It's not necessarily for people that are not within that community. And I think it's quite ironic, really, that the company themselves has said they will no way consider making a movie out of it. Interesting in that. But it's also very interesting that it's the community that said, well, if you won't do it, we will. And for that, I think this guy should be paid by CD Projekt Red for the work that he's done on this, because it's the ultimate advert for this game.
They're going to make a lot of money from this guy's movie and trailer. But then again, that's what machinima does. It's people who love games and they love the community of it, and they don't really care. I mean, if the motive was to make money, it would have been a different kind of film. But I agree with you. Almost everything you said, I had the same problem at a certain point, but I just stuck with it. I don't know why. I just stuck with it and got all the way through. Some of the thoughts that occurred to me was the difference between the function of a game trailer and the function of a cutscene. A game trailer wants you it's informational, and it wants to get you to buy the game by giving you what the game is capable of, the kinds of things you do in the game, the kind of moods, the kind of fighting, the kind of characters, the kind of story. And on that level, if you look at it that level, you're absolutely right. This is extremely well done, very stylish and appealing. I would buy this game. A cutscene operates differently because it gives you the drama of a particular moment in a game. For example, in Elden Ring, you'll often go into a boss arena and there'll be a cutscene before you fight the boss explaining who the boss is and their background story. Now, 90% of the time, the first time you play that game, you'll watch that cutscene. But after that, you want to get to the battle. So it's more of a disposable kind of thing than a game trailer is. But that's just some of the thoughts I had about it. My problem with the film is that it, as an advertisement, it kind of left me cold, you know? It's like looking at a gorgeous advertisement, a nouveau, like one of those French wonderful posters for a stage show, a Belle Epoque stage show, and you go, God, that design is wonderful, and that event looks cool, and then you walk on. You know what I mean? It's advertisement. You're not supposed to be going, oh God, I feel so much for that girl. What a dress. She's forced to wear that dress. Oh no. And what about those guys behind her? Are they taking advantage of her? You know, you don't think of any of that. You just see it as an advertisement and you move on. And on that level, it succeeds admirably. But for some reason, I want to be unreasonable. And I want it to tell me a little bit something about the characters. I want them to give me some sort of feeling about why they're doing what they do. And I don't think that's too much to ask, really. You know, add a little bit of that extra thing, because sometimes people play games for the story. They don't play games necessarily for the fighting and all of that. They want to be moved by it. Again, it's like a novel. You want to get involved in the characters and all of that. But, you know, that's just me. And once again, as you pointed out so wonderfully in our last episode, Tracy, we all bring our own perspective to it. And Phil's comment about Wittgenstein saying, well, you and the object that you're working with you're going to interact in a very unique way. And that was my take on it. It just left me cold, although I very much admired the style and I understand it was an advertisement. And as an advertisement, I couldn't find anything wrong with it, except for maybe a little long. But then again, I like things that are shorter. But I liked it. I thought it was a really interesting pick, and I would certainly buy the game to play it.
Ricky, does the game itself, Cyberpunk 2077, does it generally give you that same cold feeling? Because what you're describing, your reaction to this trailer and that lack of connection, if you will, that coldness, that's kind of how the game has always struck me. It's probably why I've never bought it and never decided. Because it's not that I don't have time. I've just chosen not to invest time in that game because it just doesn't grip me at all. And whereas Red Dead Redemption 2 did, you know, there was something about the way that story was presented that I felt like there was going to be something there I would connect to, or at least something about that world that I would connect to. And there's something about the dystopian landscape that's really, it's cold. And I'm just wondering if I'm interested in watching it as a movie, but not as something that I feel like I'm going to come away with a narrative love interest, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Like
I see.
Like it's going to be a really tasty meal that's just going to pass right through my body and not make any real difference on me, but it's going to taste great. That's kind of how I feel about the game. And as you were talking, I realized, well, that's kind of how I feel about the movie too, but I don't have any compelling reason to care what happens
I
to
see,
anybody, to anyone that
Good
I
point.
saw on the screen. I
Good
don't
point.
care. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it sure as hell should be a problem, right? You
Yeah.
know, I mean, so yeah, that's interesting observations, Ricky. And I've always assumed I have that same feeling, but I think it didn't impact me from watching this trailer because I'd already kind of decided that was the effect
That's what it was. Yeah.
that the game world already has on me, which is that's just a sad, hopeless world. And honestly, and what is the possible good outcome that one could expect to happen to someone in that world? From what I know about it, it's not a redeemable world.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's doomed. You know, and I don't know if it's just that I'm not real excited about adopting that worldview. You know, because that game, there's a lot of elements of that game
Good point.
that it's like, yeah, that's what things are becoming here. You know, and so when I see Apple with Vision Pro and oh, put on this mask and just go off into your own world. Everybody, hey, everybody, just go off into your own mask. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, do you know what that will fucking look like? What's gonna happen? You know,
we're already in that world, Phil.
Well,
people have done it
yeah.
not with their eyes, they've done it with their ears.
No,
now you
I
can
think
walk down the
so.
street
I
and
think so.
nobody.
But you know, man, that's a hard pill to swallow. You know, to even accept that about the world, at that fictional world as presented by that game, makes me fidget in my seat.
I hear you.
But the idea that I should say, yep, it's a done deal and that's where we're going, is this dark world where we just contort our bodies with technology and nothing matters. Nothing really means anything. There are no meaningful. Okay, so the trailer implies that the movie, there are going to be meaningful relationships. So let's give it that. It does appear that, you know, this person is going to have someone they care about, but it's like, but in that world, what's the maximum they're going to be able to do for them? You know what I'm saying? Everybody's effed. Everybody's effed in that world.
Yeah.
So,
well, now listen, I want to give you a little bit of hope, though, for that future world, because in that world there may be somebody who makes Sims 10, and it allows you to torture the characters in such unique ways.
Yeah, they've already set the stage by putting Keanu Reeves in it. It's like,
that's right. You know, you'll be able to do amazing.
He is the redeeming feature, isn't he?
Yeah. The Keanu Art Gallery. Yeah.
Ricky, with that statement, I will say that is actually pretty true to the theme of the game. They don't actually call it the Sims 2, Sims 10, but that sort of stuff does actually happen.
No way.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I don't know if it's going to be in the film version of the game, because obviously they're stripping it down to focus on the main core of the story. They're not doing any of the side stuff you can get involved with. But it's a very interesting world, but it's not one you'd want to live in. It's fun to visit.
Yeah.
Virtually.
No, that's a very fair statement, I think.
That's a fair statement.
Yeah. Because when the game was first released, I played it. It was in its very rocky, buggy state, and now they've fixed all of that, and it's massively improved as far as the gameplay is concerned. So I'm looking forward to playing the DLC and going through it again with all the bugs fixed.
Hey, in fairness, Red Dead Redemption 2 probably isn't a world most people would want to live in either.
No,
but maybe it doesn't disturb me in the same way, because the chances that we will end up living in a world like Red Dead Redemption 2 are pretty slim, unless we're looking past the world that fell apart in 2077.
Yes.
Then we might return to that vintage.
Good point.
What if Red Dead Redemption is not a historical game? It's a sci-fi far future game.
Yeah.
Planet of the Apes and whatnot.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out that there's an occupational hazard with watching all of these films at the same time, which is what I generally do. this film was the last one I watched out of all of the films that we've picked for this month. And I think what happens, you get an artificial reaction to a film based on what you've already seen previously. When you see an absolutely brilliant film like the Sims 4 film or the Erectes, and suddenly you come to the Cyberpunk, it's less impressive than what it actually is. So I think for my part, I'm going to try to watch these films on different days.
Yeah, I already
good
do
idea.
that. Oh, well, I'm a slow
kind of
learner,
like
I guess.
kind of like cleansing the palate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
That
that's
way
smart.
one movie won't bleed into the other.
Yeah. It's the only way I can do it. I don't have the time to sit and think about them all on one day, really. So I spread it out
That's smart.
over the month, basically.
Because I actually think I might have liked this film better if it hadn't been in comparison to some of the others I watched.
Oh, it's not a bad film at all. It's just
I'm not saying it's a bad film, but I may be more enthusiastic because I'd be prone to wanting to watch it more carefully.
Yeah.
You know,
I really like, by the way, and respect the tradition of the editing together of feature-length film out of a game's either cutscenes or cinematics. Anachronox comes to mind. I don't know if any of you remember that.
Yeah, I remember that. Oh,
wonderfully done. And somebody fairly recently was endeavoring to do something like this for Half-Life Alyx, I believe.
That's right.
I don't know if they completed it or not, but
they did indeed. And we interviewed Half Peeps, his name was, and he released it in 3 different episodes, I think. We covered it. Must have been last year at some point.
Okay.
I'll put some links back on the show notes.
I think I might want to revisit that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, Phil, it'd be interesting after you've watched the movie of the game, if it'll change your perspective on wanting to play the game or not.
Yeah, you'll be able
your
to
opinion, or it
just
may
watch my Steam notifications. If you suddenly see me on the game, you know that it did its job. So
yeah,
brilliant.
My son loves the game. So
good. I'm glad he likes it. All right, so I think that wraps things up for this week. If you have any feedback about us or the film, if you want to talk to us about your views on Cyberpunk 2077, please email talk@completethemachinima.com. Check out our blog at completethemachinima.com as well. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. So see you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.